The following program is seen statewide on California Public Television. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and here we are, another perfect day in paradise. The sky is blue, the air is clean, the birds are chirping, and look at this natural surrounding we're in. And to tell us exactly what this natural area is, where we are, Mike, you're the ranger out here. Tell everybody where we are right now.
I'd like to welcome you to Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. And this is actually a unit of the National Park Service, and it's quite unique, as all of our national parks are. And the special significance of the Santa Monica Mountains is what's known as its Mediterranean ecosystem.
So what do you mean by that? These look like oak trees to me.
Right. Well, it's all about the climate. The hot, dry summers and the cool, moist winters that are so common to Southern California. And of course, these are the common plant species that you have out here. And the landscape, in many ways, it remains intact. Some of it has changed a little because of the history of the ranching that was a part of this. But I mean, we're only a few miles from Malibu and the Pacific coastline here, but we're tucked in enough in this beautiful natural area, only about a half an hour from Los Angeles. But imagine how quickly you can get away and find this beautiful landscape.
This is, and looking out here at this open, there's a lot of open space out here, isn't there?
Right, exactly. And that goes back to the ranching period because after, the mission period and the Spanish visits that eventually established the ranchos out here, you would see cattle, horses, and eventually even sheep. And so a lot of the landscape has changed a little bit, and it's become this grassland because of the ranching at one time here.
It is absolutely beautiful. Look at the mountains up here. Now, how big is this? We're in one of the subsets.
Correct.
The Santa Monica National Recreation Area.
Correct. Yes, in total, the recreation area is 150,000 acres, give or take a few hundred there. But ultimately, within this border or boundary are something like about half of that 150,000 acres would be parkland, a mixture of both state and federal. So you can move from here, go into a little denser chaparral in a different park. You can find trails for mountain biking. Equestrians are very popular around here, or hiking. And again, the beauty of it is you go from the freeway systems in downtown LA and all that, busy hustle bustle, and in moments you're out here in the quiet of the Santa Monica Mountains.
There's no hustle bustle here, but there's a lot of natural beauty and there's a lot of history here. Now, we are at one of the parks called
Paramount Ranch.
And how many acres are we talking about?
Today it's 750 acres approximately.
Okay, and that's where we're going to be spending the day, because as beautiful as these oak trees are, as magnificent as these mountains are, as breathtaking as all this open space is, we are not here just to look and appreciate the natural wonders of this park. We are here to check into and delve into its human history, its Hollywood history in this park, which is one of California's truly golden parks. Well, we're riding into town. I'm on a horse. Mike, you're on a mule.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't get any more classic than this. And this place really takes you back in time. Where are we right now?
Well, for many people, we're in the heart of the park here. This is the real draw, the film history, the iconic western town of the Old West.
This was a movie town.
It certainly was.
And there were lots of movie towns in this part of California, weren't there?
Right. At one time, there were probably something like 20 ranches, both studio-owned and privately owned.
Okay, so that's where the name Paramount Ranch comes from, Paramount Pictures.
Right, exactly, a direct link. They owned it from 1927 to 1943.
Okay, and now the people of the United States own it.
Exactly.
It's part of one of our national recreation areas.
Exactly.
We're going to be spending the whole day here, not on horseback and muleback. We're going to dismount in just a minute. I may leave the... How do you think the hat, does that fit in?
Oh, I think you'd be you'd be a real throwback to the old days. You just need a little scruffy beard, I think.
Would I be one of the good guys or one of the bad guys? I'm wearing a black hat.
The bad guys, probably.
Well, even though I'm dressed like a bad guy, I'm going to be a good guy for the rest of the day, and we're going to dismount and take a tour. Look at this, Hotel Mud Bug. We're going to be taking a tour of this wonderful old movie town here at Paramount Ranch. And boy, I'm relieved. The horse stayed under control the whole time.
I only get you the best.
And your mule did pretty good too.
So you want to dismount there and...
yeah, let's dismount.
Let's poke around here.
Here we go. All right, we've dismounted. We're going to tie up our horses and start the tour. Okay, the formal tour begins here in front of Hotel Mud Bug. We have dismounted. I've taken my black hat off. You've got on your ranger hat because you're going to give us the ranger tour of this town. I love the name, Hotel Mud Bug. It's got to have a great old Western story behind it.
Well, it may look old by its look, but actually it's quite new, and that's all about Hollywood. You know, in a Western town, you got to make it look like it really fits the period of that history. So this is quite recent.
What do you mean, recent? They're filming out here today?
Not today, but this is a location. It is a film location of desire for somebody, whether it's a TV show, a commercial, music video, or an old Western. And so only recently we had a Western film here, and we like it when they leave some of these props behind because it adds to the character of the town.
Boy, you could have fooled me because this looks like the Old West.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Boy, that Hollywood, they're tricky in Hollywood. Let's talk about the history. We're starting at recent history, but let's go back into the old history of this town because, boy, this place must have really been humming back in the 1920s.
Yes, well, Paramount Pictures, who originally owned the ranch and where its name came from, purchased 2,700 acres, coincidentally, in 1927. And right away, they started to work to set up to do business. And because Hollywood was, you know, today's terms, very close to get to, but back then, well, it took a little longer. So they wanted to have an infrastructure here so that they could actually, you know, just go in, get props, lighting equipment, whatever they needed, horses, cattle. So what you see here today, well, it's a part of that illusion of that history, and that this was really a support facility right here where we are today. These buildings underneath a lot of these storefronts are actually corrugated metal where they stored these props, kept their horses, et cetera, et cetera.
For shooting that they were doing, I guess, all out in these hills.
Yeah,
how many different film locations did they have dotted all in this area?
Well, of course, it was ever evolving. Some sets stayed longer. As I say, this was not an originally built Western town set. They had one of theirs, and it was further north of here between us and what was then Ventura Highway.
So this was just the support town.
Right, exactly.
Well, how did it come to look like this? Is this a long, convoluted story, or is there a... Does this story have is there a real story to this?
Oh, certainly. You know, filming has always been a part of this. So after Paramount sold the property, well, it started to get chopped up into smaller parcels.
When did they sell it?
In 1943, although they had a lease back for 5 years. After that, they were really pretty much gone from here permanently. But the filming continued because the private landowners saw that opportunity, and a man by the name of William Hertz is the one that purchased the property where we are today. And he went to some of the other studio movie ranches where they were dismantling some of the facades. Again, you know, sets are temporary. And so he actually shipped out on some flatbed trucks probably, brought these storefronts up here and started slapping them on the old corrugated storage buildings and created the Western town as you see it today.
He made a Western town.
Right, exactly.
Back in when, the 50s?
Yeah, in about the early 50s, the first few years there. And that was a key part of at least American television history, because in the 1950s, Westerns were really big. And so many Westerns, I mean, they outnumbered any other kind of you know, genre of a TV show. And so whether it's a Cisco Kid or Wanted Dead or Alive, if they wanted to go to another town that looked different from a previous episode, this was a place. And there are other Western towns around Southern California they could choose from.
So Mr. Hertz, who bought this from Paramount, started leasing it out for independent productions to come and film here.
Right, exactly.
And how did the state get hold of it?
Well, we, the National Park Service, we came along many years later in 1980. In fact, the property was very close to being developed. There may have been homes here today if we hadn't come along, but the appeal of the Santa Monica Mountains and the resources here, the Mediterranean ecosystem, and this classic film history, this type of history of filmmaking is so well known around the world, but so little tangible evidence of that past is still here.
Yeah, most of these movie towns disappeared.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
weren't built to last.
Yeah, you're not going to find much around today unless it's on a studio lot. It's, you know, out here in the country, if you will, where you could get away from the city and the freeways, not hear any sounds other than nature. It was perfect. 360-degree circle.
Wow. So the National Park Service bought this. This is probably the only movie town in a national park, isn't it?
Exactly. You're correct on that.
Well,
And
it makes sense having it here in Hollywood.
Right, exactly. I mean, certainly we don't see as much activity as we used to see here. Things, you know, economy going back and forth, whatever. But as I indicated, we get a variety of things going on out here. And it's not just about filming. We have festivals out here where this is a perfect backdrop, like the Banjo Fiddle Festival will be coming up soon here. So this is used a lot for events. And it has a real, you know, character about it that people love for these events.
And the train station. I know that there's got to be a story behind the train station stuck out here on the edge of town.
Right, right. Now, if you're coming out here for the first time, I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. There's no tracks here, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, that's part of what they do in filming. Things come and go. Well, one time there were train tracks right here, and this was all put here by the TV show Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
That was filmed here.
Right, right. This was Colorado as a setting for that TV show.
And when they left after being out here for a number of years, they took the train but left the station.
Right, right, right. We decided that we could probably maintain this, and we love adding a little bit of character to the town with another building.
Yes, look at this. And what's the story on the little cabin over there?
Well, that goes back even further to the 1950s, and maybe even before that. In doing film research, we often watch a lot of old TV shows to hope that we might see Paramount Ranch pop up, and we have seen from an old Cisco Kid episode with Leo Carrillo and Duncan Ronaldo. They were standing in front of this cabin. It's sort of like the maybe the hideout for the bad guys back.
So this wasn't originally here. You brought this from one of these distant locations?
Oh, no, this was actually here.
Right on that spot.
Right, exactly. It may have been moved by the studio, who knows, but when we came here, that's where it was.
So this whole thing is kind of a hodgepodge, isn't it?
Right. Well, things change. I mean, sets are temporary. But because we have some real structures underneath some of the town buildings here, then they are somewhat permanent. We use them for storage inside as well. You just don't know that.
And the old saloon, I feel like I need a drink. I need to wet my whistle. So we could go in the saloon, but over the years, the saloon, I could have also gassed up out front as well.
Right, exactly. It was a Conoco station at one point for a commercial, I believe. Or you could have come here to visit a Spanish inn. And again, they would just do that Hollywood thing of illusion, and they'd change the facade to make it look whatever they need it to be.
The saloon, the Conoco gas station, or the old Mission.
Exactly.
This building has been all three things.
Right. Whatever they need, they can do. The carpenters go to work.
Okay, now we've come inside the old saloon. We're finally bellying up to the bar, and I'm not the first person to belly up to the bar, am I?
Oh, no. I mean, again, these are some of the props left over from TV filming out here or film production companies. And in fact, one of the most recent uses of this room here was for that reality show, The Bachelor. And before that, there was a Western. It was kind of an odd, unusual Western. I would call it Bonanza meets gangster rap or something like that. Cowboys, costumes, but clown faces. So they make some unusual things these days.
So really, everybody and everything comes out here.
Oh, really? Exactly.
I'm a little disappointed, though. You should have at least a prop of a cold beer.
Right,
here
a good cold draft.
Right over here. We've already kind of tested this out because I spotted it. This piano was part of a Western, but it doesn't work. Why am I not surprised?
Right, well, maybe, you know, whoever they put in front of there wasn't an accomplished piano player, so they would just tickle the keyboards and they'd fill it in audio later.
Yeah, he was one of those cowboys wearing doing the gangster rap
Yeah,
and
right,
wearing a
right.
clown face.
Right, exactly.
Boy, if these walls could talk.
Oh, yes, that's for sure.
How many things do you figure have been shot in an old place
Hundreds,
like
as
this?
I say, with those TV shows of the 50s, so many westerns, it's unknown, and the only way we can find this out is somebody needs to sit often in front of a TV and watch one episode after another until you all of a sudden, hey, that's Paramount Ranch.
This is kind of nondescript.
Right,
Exactly. And it could be rearranged in a lot of different ways.
Right. It was a diner once for the HBO show Carnival. It was kind of a classic old diner from the 30s. This whole room here.
See, I watch that all the time. That part of that was filmed here.
Yeah, right. Short-lived, but it was shot here. I think it was the first season, actually. This was a town, 1930s California, Depression era. They even had Okies coming in here in the old Model Ts, just like the Grapes of Wrath.
Now, here's part of the Old West that I'm not as curious about getting up close to. Let's walk over here. This is a real honest to goodness. There's nothing Hollywood about this.
No.
That's a rattlesnake.
Exactly. And in that position, he knows he's not threatened. If we get a little bit closer, he'll likely to curl up. But he doesn't want to be a part of us any more than we want to be a part of him. Shows you a little bit of the feel of the ghost town, deserted streets. That's when the animals like the rattlesnakes come out and show themselves.
Well, wait a minute, he's coming over this way.
Curious maybe, but again, if we got closer, it wouldn't want anything to do with us.
He's not coiled up.
No. As long as it doesn't get coiled up, we're okay.
Wow, look at that.
Probably lives under one of these porches. That's very common.
Well, I'm glad to see him out in the open instead of running to him in one of these buildings. Look at that. Now, that's part of the Old West that I want to stay part of the Old West.
Right. When all the actors and the film companies have left, well, you know what takes up a residence? The local wildlife.
The snakes are back.
It is a park.
I should have taken my black hat off sooner. I've been thrown in jail. I'm one of the bad guys.
Got you locked up.
And I have no way of knowing whether this... Yeah, it's pretty steady. It's pretty sturdy. What was this built for?
Well, as you can see, it was a jail, at least most recent times. This was the jail in the Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman TV show here that was located at Paramount Ranch for 6 years.
But a lot of other things have been filmed here in recent years, haven't they?
Oh, sure. Well, television certainly is popular, and it doesn't have to be a show that lends itself to the Old West. If they want to kind of turn an episode into a connection where they need a town like this, Diagnosis Murder, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, they all had this kind of Western backdrop for episodes that they would film out here, including the X-Files. They turned it into a sleepy Georgia town with a few props and different foliage, if you will.
Wow, so the infrastructure can be used for that many different looks.
Oh, sure. Again, these are craftspeople, know what they're doing. They can come out here, you know, in a few days, just turn a western town into a deep south town.
Well, I don't know what they can do with this. A jail is still a jail as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's much you can do with this. But boy, when you're here, you feel like you're in jail.
Right, exactly. And if they needed to bring more filming equipment in here, because it's a tight space, well, this wall right behind us, it's a part of the facade. They can just take this right off like a door with a few, bolts be removed. And then the cameras will be back there and they can film from the interior of the jail.
Okay, we're outside the jail. We've broken out, and boy, now we have hit the jackpot. We are standing in front of the most magnificent. What kind of tree? This is an oak. It's a
valley oak.
A valley oak. This is the most magnificent specimen of a valley oak I think I've seen anywhere in California.
It could easily be 300 years old. Wow. And if it weren't for the fact of the western town here kind of surrounding it like a fence, it may have been cut down like so many of the oaks were years ago for firewood or just clearing the land. But this one, it survived, and we call it a witness tree because it's witnessed so much history here.
So much movie history,
Exactly.
and then, of course, the history back before the Paramount was ever here.
Right, exactly. I mean, luckily we've been able to find stills that show the western town from back in the 30s and beyond, but we have a particular great photo of the actor Jackie Coogan that many people remember as Fester from the Addams Family. Started out as a child actor in the silents, but here in the 30s, he was in a Western, and he was on a horse sitting under that tree there, I guess, for a pose shot. And we were able to see the tree as it was like 70 years ago, a little thinner, but still a large tree.
Now we've come right next to the town, and we're standing here. Actually, we're walking on a piece of asphalt. And this chapter of the history here, you have completely thrown me off with this. I had no idea that this was even here, and it's a fascinating piece of history.
Oh, yeah, it does throw you for a loop. The last thing you expect to find at a movie ranch, maybe, or a western town is a racetrack.
A racetrack, not for horses.
No, for cars, what they call Formula One cars, mostly a little two-seater cars, sports cars, Porsches, MGs, Jaguars, things like that.
And why was it here?
Well, after the Hertz period, the next private owners of the ranch, you know, they changed things around a little bit. They still, you know, brought the filming in, but one of the things they added to the ranch was about a 2-mile race car track with these banks and turns. There were about 8 turns a part of this whole track.
A real track,
Right,
not a
exactly.
movie track,
Oh,
a real track.
Right, exactly. It was a part of the California Sports Club Association in the 1950s, and thousands of people would come out here, park their cars all over these grassland areas in the nearby the pit area and all the turns, and watch the races going on here.
Now, were movies filmed on the track as well?
Oh yes, those location scouts and those production companies, they didn't miss anything. If they were coming up with an idea that they wanted to film at a racetrack, and if they want to maybe get away from that more classic racetrack and have a little woodsy backdrop or whatever, The Devil's Hairpin was a film in the 1950s with Cornell Wilde that was shot here. One of these turns was considered the Devil's Hairpin. But Disney discovered it for The Love Bug, the early ones back in the 60s.
The Love Bug was filmed here.
Right, exactly. The start and finish line was here for that movie.
Okay, now we've come about 300 feet out of town. I am walking very carefully after seeing that rattlesnake.
You don't want to meet his father.
They camouflage in very carefully. I'm on snake alert, but we've reached an open area right here. And you've brought us out of town because you wanted to show us something. This to me looks like just an open field, but it's not. It's deceiving.
Right, it's a backdrop. Because even today we're fortunate when you almost go 360 degrees, you see nothing but open landscape. And so they could easily build a set, put some actors in costume, and it could be anywhere in the world. So right here on that flat area at one time stood a Mongolian Genghis Khan type fort for the adventures of Marco Polo in the late 30s. And less than a year later, they just made a few changes and it became a fort in Morocco, if you will, for Beaugés with Gary Cooper.
So this was not obviously just for Westerns.
No.
This whole area out here was dotted with little sets from all over the world.
Right, exactly. We had an Austrian/German town that was here back in the 30s. Salem, Massachusetts for Maid of Salem about the witch hunt era. There was even a tropical village of the Southwest for a movie called Ebb Tide along the creek that goes through here. So again, it's all illusion. If you just put those sets up, costumes on people, tell them you're in the South Pacific or Africa, then they tend to believe it.
And was the idea, and it wasn't just for Paramount, but 20th Century Fox was out in this area?
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's literally about a 15-minute walk from here. You would get at Century Ranch, which was owned by 20th Century Fox. A little later than Paramount Ranch. They were there all the way up into the 1970s.
There's legend on this trail.
If you look right up here at this mountain right ahead of us, it's known as Sugarloaf Mountain. But if anybody's ever seen the opening of a film by Paramount Pictures, you know, there's that logo of a mountain. And it kind of looks like that, except the one on the logo, of course, is snow-capped. And well, you know, everything seems to have a story behind it. Somebody probably started this, that this is where Paramount got the idea for their logo. We've never been able to
be.
Oh, sure.
And they could have just put snow on it in the drawing.
Right. May have been an inspiration, who knows, but that's just one of the stories we've never proven as fact.
Well, it sounds good. Today it's called
Sugarloaf Mountain.
Let's stand out of the way because it's Sugarloaf Mountain today, but it could very well have been the inspiration for the Paramount Pictures logo from those early years. Boy, look at this. This was worth the hike. You're seeing the whole town down there.
You can't beat an aerial view. Now you really see it. It's nestled in there just perfectly, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you see it in juxtaposition to the scenery around it, to the natural areas around it.
Right, you see where we were before up that dirt road that cuts its way, snaking along.
Wow, look
at this.
And
here we've come back over here.
Boy, now come on in. We got another cast of characters here. Judy, you're a ranger here,
Yes,
and
sir.
Don, are you a ranger?
A volunteer.
You've been a volunteer for a long time. How many years?
Officially maybe 5 years, but I've been unofficially as sort of a hobby for about 26 plus years now.
Yeah, you discovered this place back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
82.
your job now is to what? He's got a great job.
I get to watch a lot of old television shows and old movies, trying to find ones that filmed here.
He's your old movie and old television
He's great.
guy around here.
He knows a thing or two.
And you deal with the public all the time.
Yes.
So when people come here, because we hadn't seen many people here today.
Not today.
But you have a lot of visitors, and do
Yes.
they come here by accident, or do they know what they're coming to see?
You know, it's a combination. People come from all over the world to come to this site because they see parts of movies that were filmed here. They find it on the databases online. They find out that this place exists just by pure accident. They hear somebody talk about it. People who live here have relatives come from out of town, and those people take them here just because it's kind of cool.
So it really is the movie lore,
Yes.
not just the natural wonders, but the movie lore that brings people here.
Yeah, definitely. The experience of the movie is the idea that you can come and experience firsthand movie making history, and you can be a part of it by just kind of standing on the sidelines and watching it take place.
Yeah, you get the feel of it. And Mike, I got to tell you, this place, what was it you said? It has the distinction of being the only...
It's the only movie ranch, historic movie ranch, the only still working movie ranch today, and it happens to be a part of the National Park Service system, and the only one in the system of 391 parks.
So this is unique.
Oh, yes.
To all others in the
Right.
entire national park system.
Right, we got here just in time. There was rumors that this was going to become a housing tract.
No. Boy, I can imagine standing up here and seeing condos and houses as far as the eye could see. It almost makes your blood run cold, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Well, they're not here. This is here. This wonderful piece of history. It's the Paramount Ranch. It's part of the Santa Monica National Recreational Area.
Yeah.
Got a big long name, but boy, it's worth a visit. We have had an absolutely wonderful day here. I'm getting ready to put on my black hat, saddle back up.
Right out.
We're going to ride off in the distance, but this place is here for all of us to enjoy. It belongs to all of us. And this place, right down here, nestled in this little valley, right at the base of the mountains, this little place, the Paramount Ranch, is definitely one of California's golden parks. We've had a wonderful day here on the ranch. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure in one of California's golden parks. You know, we have so many wonderful parks in our state, all of them well worth a visit. And if you'd like to go on this particular adventure again, share it with family or friends, or perhaps donate a copy to your local school or library. Well, it's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.